Hello everybody, I'm Linguaphiliax, and chess is a difficult game. I'm sure that will come as a surprise to absolutely no one. All of the pieces have their own different rules, and there are several tricks, quirks, and strategies about the game that you have to be aware of in order to play it well. Despite these massive learning curves, however, the end goal of the game is fairly simple: to checkmate the king. What makes the game difficult, however, is the exact path that you take to achieve that goal.
I put my pawn on b5, you take my pawn, my knight attacks your queen, we exchange queens, my knight attacks your king, I take your rook.
With respect, coach, I would not move that way.
Everyone who wants to learn a new language has some kind of goal in mind that they want to achieve, some kind of end point where they feel like they will have finished. And before I go any further, I actually want all of you watching to take a second to really think about what that goal of yours is, and to write it down now on a piece of paper. It doesn't matter what your target language is, or whether your reason for learning it is practical, tangible, or just for fun. Regardless of those things, you will still have some kind of achievement you're trying to fulfill.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
I'm going left. If you don't like it, get out and walk.
One of the things that really annoys me as a language learner is all of the people asking me the exact same question. How many languages do you speak? The surface level reason this annoys me is because why would I feel the need to keep count of that? I'll learn as many as I want, thank you. But the deeper reason this annoys me is because this question hinges on the concept of pure fluency, which is pretty much an arbitrary concept that nobody fully qualifies for anyway. Languages are infinitely expanding and changing modes of communication that encompass the entirety of reality and human imagination, so achieving pure fluency is literally impossible because there is no real end to learning a language, not even your native one. The end is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end.
Why did you stop on a bend?
Spoken languages are made up of a certain number of speech sounds, and signed languages are made up of certain hand signs and movements. These sounds and signs for each respective mode of communication interconnect with one another to create morphemes, tiny bits of language that mean certain things.
What do you think of... You're right, terrible. Let's try that again.
For spoken languages, there is usually no correlation between the way a morpheme sounds and what it means. For signed languages, there usually is some kind of visual correlation, but the exact structure of the morpheme itself is still fairly arbitrary. Morphemes can be referential by acting as labels for specific things, actions, concepts, or ideas.
Gather the gloinks!
Or they can be grammatical by acting as the things that tie the language together to create a meaningful message.
You just want to mate.
I just want a mate.
You're not mating with me, sunshine.
There will usually be a small number, or at very least countable number, of grammatical morphemes, while there will be an infinite and constantly updating number of referential ones. Additionally, many languages, but not all of them, have a written form used to represent those morphemes. These writing systems can be consonantal, featural, phonological, syllabic, or logographic, and may be structured and arranged in various different ways, depending on which kind best fits the structure of the language it's representing.
Each letter makes a sound.
Morphemes are then strung together in certain ways to create whole words. Some morphemes can be said on their own, but others have to be attached to something else to make sense.
And why don't you use your rearview mirror?
Because it's under the seat.
Ah, that seems logical.
Those whole words are then strung together into a sentence, usually highlighting a certain thing doing a certain action, with other surrounding things added to that basic root message to provide necessary context. And then different sentences can be strung together to create a whole story and provide a larger context to things.
Cat even jumped over a kettle fire. Oh, and he was gone.
Sentences within a language system can then be created in mere seconds by competent speakers and carefully crafted in certain ways to do certain things.
Oh, look, there's Zubul. Hi, Zubul.
Some sentences state facts, some sentences request information, and some sentences motivate people to do things.
Help me, you idiots!
Kinda rude, Zubul. Now I don't wanna help you.
The speaker's choice of words and sentences also reveals things about who they are and how they interact with others, how they understand things, where they fit into society, what their thoughts and opinions are, and what kinds of people they identify with and associate themselves with.
What is this?
That would be lettuce.
Lettuce? Lettuce!
It's a vegetable cookie.
The same like-minded linguistic identities then interact with one another to create linguistic social groups, and different groups interact with each other in various different ways as well.
Have you been following me?
Not exactly. I drove on the correct side of the road.
These different language groups then spend large amounts of time going back and forth to the same constant location so they can meet up with one another again. This leads to them sharing different stories and developing different histories and cultural systems depending on everyone's individual and collective experiences, decisions, and beliefs. And these kinds of things happen throughout all of humanity, across all of human history in all sorts of different environments and locations, generating dozens, hundreds, thousands of different variations in communication across the entire planet. And the fundamental interconnectedness of all these things is the main reason why there is not and will never be only one language spoken. The universe is far too complicated and dynamic to be reduced down to a single mode of communication. But that doesn't exactly stop people from being overwhelmed by the whole thing. Obviously, since I'm writing this video before you've even seen it yet, I don't know what your language learning goals are. I don't know what you wrote on that piece of paper, assuming you even did it at all and didn't just ignore me. I don't even know why you clicked on this video.
What do you want?
I made a mistake. I thought you knew where you were going.
What the hell's it to you where I'm going?
Maybe you're expecting me to give some high-quality advice as a pre-professional expert in gibberish, or maybe you're just looking for as many language learning videos as you possibly can and this was a random one you stumbled into. Or maybe you mistakenly thought this video was a review of the Stanley Parable or the Amazing Digital Circus, judging from the surface-level information in the thumbnail.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
Or maybe you weren't necessarily expecting anything and just enjoy watching my videos passively as a long-time subscriber, purely for entertainment purposes. Or maybe you don't know anything about me, but are suspicious of my calling myself a holistic linguist, hearing me ramble on for the past 5 minutes, wondering if I actually know what I'm talking about.
Someone's having a good time.
Like a kid at Christmas.
But one thing I do know, however, is that there will be times in your language learning journey where you will find yourself completely and hopelessly lost. There's a school of thought that says whenever you're hopelessly lost, you should consult a map, but as a certain holistic detective once pointed out, what happens when you don't have one? So his own navigational technique, which he calls Zen navigation, is to instead find a car, or the nearest equivalent, which looks like it knows where it's going, and follow that.
My primary method of investigation is to follow someone who looks like they know where they're going.
And that takes you where you want to go.
Almost never, but often where I need to be.
Wow, that's... really works, Macduff.
When you look online for websites listing reasons why you should learn a language, usually the reasons they give you boil down to stuff like opening more job opportunities, or earning more money, or for the mental health benefits, or for the development of social skills. And I mean, those reasons are great and all, but they don't exactly motivate you to get started or even sustain you long enough to keep going. Everybody knows that playing games of chess consistently over and over again will sharpen your strategic thinking skills.
Chess. It makes my brain sharp.
And of course, if you become enough of an expert chess player, you can earn money by playing in chess tournaments or something. But if you don't actually enjoy the game, why would you bother learning those strategies? Why would you bother learning the rules? Why would you even bother playing at all?
I don't want.
What makes language learning goals different from chess, however, is that while the end goal of chess is always the same, the end goal of language learning will be different from person to person. This means that there will never be a map that perfectly fits everyone's language learning journey, but there will always be a reason why people decided to get started in the first place. Maybe the language has weird consonants and vowels that you enjoy saying and hearing. Maybe there's a word or phrase for something in that language that doesn't exist in your own. Maybe there's a grammatical feature in the new language that helps you understand your own language better. Maybe there's a song in the language that you really enjoy singing. Or a movie or TV show you really enjoy watching and quoting all day. Maybe you have friends or family members who speak that language natively and you want to build a stronger connection with them. Maybe you spent time in another country and had to learn the language for a bit and it just stuck with you after you got home. Maybe you're learning the language for political reasons so that you can keep up to date with events going on in the world. Or maybe the language is your own heritage minority language that doesn't get much representation and that you're learning to speak to keep in touch with your own culture and history. But whatever those reasons may be, it is those things that you should follow. It is those things that will motivate you through your language learning journey. Those are the things which, from your perspective, look like they know where they're going. To keep going at a language, you need to have some kind of intrinsic motivation that sustains you through the never-ending process, that keeps you determined through the hard work this constant learning requires. If something about the language you're learning looks like it knows where it's going, follow it and see where you end up. You will rarely end up exactly where you intended to go, but you will usually find yourself where you needed to be. Which is why I would recommend that you now tell us in the comments section what you wrote on that piece of paper, as well as the reason you got started learning your language in the first place. After that, you should hopefully see everyone else's goals and motivations for their own target languages in the comments as well. And if you found this video helpful, inspirational, or insightful in any way, be sure to tangentially let me know by giving this video a thumbs up, or by sharing it online with your friends, or by subscribing to the channel to keep up to date with new videos whenever they come out. Thank you all for listening, and we'll speak again next time. Morphemes can be referential by acting as specific labels for things, concepts, or for things, actions, concepts, or ideas. Why is this difficult? Why is this one difficult? Because it's not written how I'm saying it, because I wrote the script wrong. That's why I'm tripping over this. Okay, tripping over you. No, not that. They should adapt that. Netflix should adapt that next. They did Heartstopper, now they should do Tripping Over You.
Wow, that's...
No, my dear. We can't have any of that foul language around here.